Welcome everyone to our memorial service for Lady Eshinni and Lady Kakushinni. And we're here also to honor the BWA member who passed away since the last year's BWA memorial service. It's to honor the Buddhist Women's Association member who have passed away the past year. And this year, it is in memory of Mrs. Toyoko Okida, who passed away on August 16th, 2024. And really, she was a very extraordinary woman who always was so kind to each and every one of us who came to the temple. And she was always there to help with the fundraisers and, helping with the sushi. And I think she would do the kimchi tamago, etc. But, always there, always helping, but in a very, very quiet way. And I think in honor of all the women of the Buddhist Women's Association, especially our past generation, there were so many hard workers who did their job to make this temple flourish in a very quiet manner, but welcoming. So anyway, I'd like to welcome everyone. My name is Kathy Mikuni, and I'll be your chair for the service. Of course, I'd like to thank Reverend Gibbs for, again, being our minister, Kathy Kumagai, who is our organist. For the flowers, Kyoko Okura Gibbs, and for the live streaming, it will be Alan Goto and Kathy Kumagai. So, I think I'll just read a little something about it so we can set the stage. This is from the Gardenia Buddhist Temple. Lady Eshinni is the wife of Shinran Shonin. Many regard Eshinni as the mother of Jodo Shinshu. Lady Kakushinni is Shinran Shonin's daughter and caregiver in his final years. The establishment of the Honganji is all due to her direct descendants. While Shinran Shonin is the founder of Jodo Shinshu, if it were not for Lady Eshinni, the wife of Shinran Shonin, and Lady Kakushinni, the daughter of Shinran Shonin, we might never have heard his teaching. This is why the BWA honors these two women with a special memorial service each year. Eshinni supported Jodo Shinshu as she helped her husband as a spouse and financially, and allowing him to spread the Dharma. He was able to move with her to, I think it's Echigo, but it's present-day Niigata. So when he was in exile, he had a place, and he had a place to study and to promote his teachings. She also clearly followed her husband's view that marriage was not an impediment to being a nun and to following her religious beliefs. Congregations began to follow the couple's example, where men and women lead Shin temples as husband and wife teams. Many regard Eshinni as the mother of Jodo Shinshu. Kakushinni was not only her father's caregiver in his final years after Shinran's death, she is revered for planting the seeds of organization and propagation that were to grow into today's Honganji. Without her, there would be no Honganji. She joined with other devout followers after Shinran's passing to keep his memory alive and his work alive. Using land made available to her by her marriage into the Otani family, it was Kakushinni who donated the land to build a mausoleum that allowed people to come and pay their respect to Shinran Shonin as the founder of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. The caretakers of the mausoleum would be the direct descendants of both Shinran Shonin and Kakushinni. The mausoleum would be converted into a temple by her grandson, Kakunyo Shonin, who named the new temple Honganji. The establishment of Honganji, as well as the long line Gomonshu or leaders of our Jodo Shinshu sect are due to her direct descendants. But again, I think we'd like to always remember that the women in our temple, for as long as we've known it, the establishment of the Pasadena Buddhist temple, it was all the women who helped at all the fundraisers, who were always there, and who did so much hard work to make possible what we have today. Next on our program is Sutra Chanting by Reverend Gibbs, and we will do Sambutsuge on page 33 of your service book.
Yes, thank you, Kathy. Busatsu Daimoryo Jukyo Sanbutsuge Kogen Gigi Ijin Mugoku Yode Enmyo Muyo Tosya Ichigatmani Shuko Enyo Kaishnon Pe Yunyaku Jumoku Nyolai Yogen Shote Murin Shogaku Daion Koryu Jipo Kaimon Shojin Amai Chie Itoku Muryo Shusho Keiyu Jintai Zennen Shobuten Hokai Gujin Jinno Kugo Gaitai Mumyo Yokunu Seison Yomu Minno Shi Jintoku Muryo Kukun Kodai Chie Jinmyo Komyo Iso Shindo Daisen Ganga Tabuten Taisho Ho Kado Shoji Mihu Gedaten Pute Joi Kainin Shojin Amai Chie Ijo Gote Tokubuten Fugyo Shigan Isai Kuku Ithra Dayan Keishi Ubuten Yakuten Nokuman Muryo Daisho Shunyo Goja Kuyo Isai Shito Shobuten Kunyo Gudo Kensho Hungyaku Kinyo Goja Shobuten Sekai Bufu Kage Mushu Setendo Komyo Shisho Enshi Shokoku Yode Shojin Ishin Angyo Yoga Tabuten Kokdo Daichi Toshu Kimyo Dojo Chozaten Kokunyo Nayon Nimu Toso Gato Aimin Dodaten Isai Jipo Laisho Shinneten Shoujo Ito ga Koku Keiraku Anon Kobuten Shinmyo Zega Shinsho Otsugan no Hi Rikisho Shoyoku Jippo Teison Shie Muge Joryo Shison Shiga Shingyo Keiryo Shinshi Shoku Dokuchu Kagyo Shojin Ninju huke. Namanabu, 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 namanabu. Gani shikudoku, yodo sei isai, don monai shin onyo. Namo Mira Butsu, Namo the Butsu, Namo Mira Butsu, Namo the Butsu, Namo the Butsu, Namo Mira Butsu.
Could the Sangha please rise for the Gatha? Seiya on page 152 of your service book. And this is it's a poem written by Takeko Kujo called Sacred Night. If you could remain standing, Sensei will lead us in the three treasures on page 10.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. And if you would join me, I'll do the first paragraph and we'll do the rest of it together. The three treasures. How rare and wondrous it is to have been born into human life, and now I live it. How rare and wondrous it is to be able to listen to the Buddha Dharma, and now I am able to hear it. If I do not transcend the world of delusion in this life, when will I ever attain spiritual liberation? May I, along with the entire Sangha, with sincere heart and mind, rely on that which can be truly relied on in life, the three treasures. I rely on the Buddha. May I, along with all sentient beings, awaken to the great path with my entire being.
and discover the highest aspiration, which is to become a Buddha. I rely on the Dharma. May I, along with all sentient beings, deeply reflect on the meaning of the sutras and gain wisdom that is as deep and vast as the ocean. I rely on the Sangha. May I, along with all sentient beings, become one Sangha of life, able to move forward and live with a dynamic spirit that is hindered by nothing.
The unsurpassed, deep and wondrous Dharma, even in millions of kalpas, is extremely difficult to encounter. But now I am able to experience and embrace it. May I come to understand and revere the true meaning of the Ichibhakti. Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida Butsu.
Please be seated.
And we will have now a Dharma talk by Reverend Gibbs, but I'd first like to excuse all the kids. So, and you can follow Kyoko-san to the classrooms. So please join her. I mean, you can stay, but it might be fun to go. So we'll first wait for all the kids to go on their way. I think it'll be fun. You know, Kyoko-san always comes up with some great stuff. Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for chairing the service. Thanks to Kathy Kumagai for playing organ, and to Alan Goto for being our videographer, and again to Kyoko Okura Gibbs for doing the flowers and the Nijin preparation, putting up everything just right. Now, as you know, as Kathy's told you, this service is in honor of what turns out to be three people. Because firstly, we honor our two foundational women leaders, the foundational women leaders for our congregations, Eshinni and Kakushinni. But we combine this service with a memorial service for the past members of the BWA, always focusing on the people who passed away in the last year. And so, you know, I was just thinking at the top of my head, in either a resident minister or as a supervising minister, I've served 8 or 9 temples now, and I guess 9, yeah. And this is the first time we've ever had a BWA memorial with just one person who passed. So this is good news. It's not just because we're small, it's because we're healthy and we're taking care of ourselves, and that's good. Yeah, I'm very sorry for having lost Mrs. Okita, but it's quite remarkable that that's the only loss we had this year amongst our BWA members. As Kathy pointed out, Mrs. Toyoko Okita was a very sweet, very active member. She was always here for the fundraisers. We will miss her, my family and I. We will think of her. Now, we admire Eshinni and Kakushinni, but it would be a conceit for me to say that I miss them, as they passed away 8 centuries before I was born. But I do think of them. In a different sense, I do think of them. But a different sense in which I think of Mrs. Okita. I think of Mrs. Okita in the sense that I remember her smile. I remember the times that she came to the door with kaki or other fruits that she gave us, and how she was always so embarrassed at knocking at the residence door, disturbing us, to give us something. But I remember her warmth, and I remember the many actual contacts that we had. So that's how I remember Mrs. Toyoko Okita. Of course, I have no experience of contacts with Eshinni or Kakushinni. I know of them through books and lectures. Every year I tell you some details about them, usually repeating what the chairperson, again this year Kathy Mikuni, has already told you. So I won't do too much of that this year. I won't repeat too much detail, biographical detail, as you have heard this before. I will, of course, remind you that Eshinni was the wife of our denominational founder, Shinran Shonin, and Kakushinni his youngest daughter. And the way in which these two women provided leadership was crucial to the founding of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. The Jodo Shinshu school of Mahayana Buddhism would not exist without them. Eshinni, Shinran's wife, was the daughter of a landowning family. Again, in those days they called that Echizen, and now we call it Niigata. It was considered a distant place in the old days, you know, from the center of culture, which was Kyoto at the time. Very shortly it went to be Tokyo, but I don't know if it really ever did. But Echigen or Niigata was considered way, way far away, but it's not really now. It's not really now. But they were landowners up there, so Shinran was exiled up there, and we believe he met Eshinni in Kyoto, but we really don't know. It could just be that he came to the Echizen or Niigata area with the recommendation of Honen, his teacher, and so they embraced him for that reason. But more likely he had met Eshinni. She probably came to Kyoto to study with Honen, and that's where he first knew her. Well, you know, as I often point out, you know, he was dumped on the beach in Niigata with 2 other monks. We never hear what happened to them. So they dump these monks. So you're not monks anymore because these people are mad at you, so we say you're not monks. And so they dump them, they send them the furthest way they can into the coldest area. I went up there for a study session to see the areas, and it was just turned out to be a warm winter. I had one of those rabbit fur hats, ridiculous. It was like 70 degrees, but it's known for being very cold, and they dumped him on the beach with a bag of rice seeds. Now this guy's a monk, an intellectual. He's never raised rice. What's he going to do with a bag of rice seeds? I don't know what happened to the other 2 monks, but he had a connection with Eshinni's family, and they took him in and took care of him, and he ended up marrying her. He would have starved to death without her, without the Miyoshi family and their daughter Tamenori, Dharma name Eshinni. Eshinni and her family provided practical support, material support for Shinran. And Eshinni was a strong, hard-working person who became the matriarch of the family. And she had to deal with all the economic problems. We have one letter from her that's kind of interesting in that something you wouldn't think about this, I wouldn't have, but you know, you have the old days, you have rich people, and you have a servant class. They're not slaves, they're hired. They work for wages, but they live in the household, and many of them are there for their lifetime. So what happens when a servant becomes pregnant? See, there was quite a set protocol. One of Eshinni's servants became pregnant, one of the women became pregnant by a servant from another household. This used to happen all the time. And so they had a set protocol for it. And the protocol is, if you have been hiring this lady and she's your cook or whatever, and the groundskeeper next door impregnates her, she goes to that family and you lose her. And so this was a real problem for Eshinni. She suddenly lost one of the key servant people because she became pregnant and had to move to the other household. So that's the kind of thing we see her doing, figuring out how do we do this, what are we going to do? She used to do these duties, we'll let you take care of that, and then you need to do this other thing. She did, I'll do this, and we'll get someone else come in maybe next month. You know. So she dealt with the practical day-to-day managing of the ranch, raising the family, running the farm, managing the properties. She was the matriarch, as we put it, providing a material base and a warm family underpinning for Shinran Shonin's career, sharing the Nimbutsu teaching. Eshinni's role in Shinran Shonin's life was rather traditional underpinning of his ministry. I'm reminded of the old adage, you've heard this before, behind every great man is a great woman. Currently they tend to say, beside every great man there's a great woman. And then rumor has it that Eleanor Roosevelt changed it to be, behind every great man there is a greater woman. I don't know if Eleanor actually said that or not, but it was true. If you got to choose between Eleanor and Franklin, we got to go with Eleanor. But that's the kind of leadership, the kind of support that Eshinni provided, very traditional. I'll run the family, I'll run the farm, I'll take care of business, I'll cook, I'll sew, I'll fix stuff. You go talk about Buddhism. assisted from the background and behind the scenes. Eshinni assisted behind the scenes. And Eshinni did tell her daughter of a dream she had. And in this dream, she had a dream that she was at some temple, and there was a traditional layout for East Asian Buddhism. You always have a Buddha, there's more than one Buddha, but you always have a Buddha in the center, and two bodhisattvas, or in our tradition, we have historical figures to the right and the left. But everybody else except Jodo Shinshu is a bodhisattva. Buddha in the center, bodhisattva on the left, bodhisattva on the right. But Shakyamuni in the middle, then it's Manjushri, the bodhisattva wisdom to his right, to your right, and to your left will be Samantabhadra, one of the compassion bodhisattvas, the bodhisattva known for making the most vows, like 295 vows or something. And so Eshinni in her dream is at this temple, and there's a Buddha, and then there's this bodhisattva, and who's this bodhisattva here? And she can't make it out, and she turns to the guy standing next to her and says, who is the bodhisattva there to the right? And the man turns to her and says, oh, that's Shinran. And then she woke up, like you do. Whenever there's anything remarkable in your dream, you wake up, you know. So, and it is true, she never told Shinran about this dream. Now, you know, he had a dream that that the bodhisattva compassion, Kannon, would become his wife and take care of him. But we don't know. We don't actually know. We always say he didn't tell Eshinni that, but we don't know. We don't know if he told Eshinni about that dream. But Eshinni did not tell him about this dream. She told her daughter in a letter, and she mentions, I never told your father this, but I had this dream one time. So she had this feeling about him like he was embodiment of the Buddha's wisdom. And he had this feeling like she was the embodiment of the Buddha's kindness and goodness. So a very special relationship. Without it, we would not be here. The dream, again, was consistent with the kind of person that Eshinni was. The sort of backing that she provided for Shinran Shonin as he went out teaching the Buddha Dharma. Now, his youngest daughter, Kakushinni, was a different kind of an exemplar. She was a pace setter, an active superintendent, a decision maker, the superintendent of the denomination. Pretty much from the moment that Shinran died, Kakushinni was in charge. Kakushinni was the caretaker for the mausoleum, later the temple that housed Shinran's cremated remains. She communicated with the students throughout the country, mostly in the farming area near Tokyo, and she worked out an arrangement where the property itself would belong to the membership. The family would not own the property. The membership, the Sangha, would own the property of the temple, and the only condition would be that they would allow a member of the family to be the head priest. And so she functioned as the caretaker, although she was never given that title. She was never given any title. She should be recognized as the second Gomonshu, and it's not going to happen in anybody in this room's lifetime. But one day, one day they're going to look back and say, no, there was Shinran, and then there was Kakushinni, and then there was Nyoshin, and then there was Kakue. But she was never given any title or acknowledged for doing all the work she did to keep our denomination alive. And she chose, when it was time for one of her sons to take over, she chose her second son, Kakue, to take over as the head priest of the temple. Now you can imagine this would involve some friction in the family, because I think the older boy, I didn't look it up, but the older boy was, I think, almost 20 years older. She had an older son, Yuizen, and she just felt he wasn't dedicated to the teaching the way the younger boy was. The younger boy was more devout. The younger boy was more committed to the Buddhist teaching. So she said to the members, I want you to make my younger son the head priest. And they did. Actually, they called it caretaker at the time. And I think within his son's lifetime, they called it honorable caretaker. And then somewhere down the line, I don't remember when, it was about the break of the 14th century, they went to the term Monshu, which means keeper of the gate. And so you're not just the caretaker, you're the keeper of the gate of the Dharma. But she should have had that acknowledgement, but she did have the strength of character to tell her older son, Yuiza, no, you don't have what it takes for this. I'm putting your brother in charge. Your brother's going to be the Monshu, the caretaker. Kakushinni established this system of representative democracy back in the 13th century. which is pretty unusual back then. It was pretty unusual for any school of religion to let the members be in charge. I don't think we saw that again until the Methodists. The Methodists have a position that social issues are very important. Social issues are very important, and we will decide what our position is, and we'll tell the priest. But that was 19th century, and I can't think of any other group between the 13th century and the 19th century that said, you're in charge, we only ask this one thing, you select from among our family who's the chief priest, but you decide, you own the property, you make the financial decisions, you're in charge. The members, the Sangha, are in charge. And this was a new principle of organization for a religious institution, and Kakushinni was the one to innovate it. Now, Eshinni passed away on the family farm in Niigata in 1268. It was 5 years after her husband Shinran Shonin passed away. He passed away, as you know, with his youngest daughter, Kakushinni, at his side. It was at his brother's temple in Kyoto, and Kakushinni was there with him when he passed away. Now, unfortunately, Kakushinni did not have the longevity of her parents. Shinran lived to be 91, Eshinni 87 or 88. But Kakushinni passed away in 1283 at the age of 60. Her son, Kakue, did take care of the temple after that. Each of these two women, Eshinni and Kakushinni, provided crucial guidance and support in the establishment of our denomination of Buddhism. They each provided a distinct form of guidance. Eshinni was traditional, steady, unswerving in her support of her husband and his mission. Kakushinni was forceful, innovative, assertive in her leadership. Groundbreaking. We need both kinds of leadership, and we need to provide both kinds of leadership for our families, for our congregation, for the communities that we belong to. We need to be both sorts of leaders. And on that note, I will close the service. Kakushinni and Eshinni are two great exemplars of our teaching. We need to be a little bit like both of them, and maybe just a little bit like Mrs. Toyoko Okita as well. I'll ask you to join me in closing Gasho as you wish. We rely upon the source of limitless wisdom and endless life. Namo Amida Butsu.
Namamida Butsu.
Namo.
Namamida Butsu. Namamida Butsu. Thank you very much, Sensei, for giving us more of a background on these two remarkable women who, it's like 800 years have passed, but they were remarkable. So, it's always to think back that, maybe we think women didn't have power in those days, but they did. It was a quiet power. So, if everyone can rise, we're gonna, close the service. And I'm trying to find a quote here. Hi. Women are always saying, we can do anything that men can do. But men should be saying, we can do anything that women can do. Each time a woman stands up for herself without knowing it, possibly, without claiming it, she stands up for all women. So, the more powerful a woman becomes, I believe we all become more powerful and more humane. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. If you could please be seated. We'll have some announcements, and also we will be distributing we've gotten some special treats from Fugetsudo, which is a Japanese confectionery in Little Tokyo. And so we'd like you to take, kind of in memory of the service, a treat. Will it be in the classroom or will it be here? It's in the back. Okay. Announcements, please. Thank you.
Well, my first announcement is I'm going to be pretty unavailable in a couple minutes. That's because I'm going to be on a Zoom call with the San Diego Temple planning the conference next week. We got a conference on the 19th. Some of you are going to be there in San Diego. Bishop Parada will be our keynote speaker, and so excuse me for sneaking off. In just about 5 minutes, I'll disappear. I'll be in the office in front of the computer for about an hour and a half. And then, as you know, unfortunately, we lost a good friend this month, and some of you I may see over at Nishi for the funeral for the late Akira Hirose. Yeah, we're so sorry that he passed. But that's all I want to say. I'll be here with the classes as usual this week, and we will be here next Sunday. I'll be here next Sunday. It's quite a unique service. I'll be here. I don't think Kathy will. Kathy's resting. Kathy's resting. Kyoko's resting. I'll be here. There will be no organist. There will be just me. I will be here, and I will talk, and we'll see if you come or not. There's a famous story of Ryodai where this one well-known professor, he shows up, and that week, nobody was in the classroom. And so he just read his lecture notes aloud. And then he said, when the students came last week, he said, well, none of you were here last week, but I read the lecture aloud anyway. I needed to hear it. I'm not going to do that. If you're here, I'm going to be giving a message next week. We'll chant and give a message. No song, no organ, just a real simple service, but I will be here 10 o'clock next Sunday if you want to be here with me.
Good morning. Excuse me. Sunday school is going to have a Halloween party, and it's for everybody on the 27th. So please, if you feel like you want to wear a costume, feel free to wear a costume. If you don't want to wear a costume, don't worry about it. But we will have treats, and that'll be on the 27th. And then also we will start our Seas Candy fundraisers shortly. That is for Sunday school. It's the largest fundraiser. We make a little over probably about $1,300, and that funds a lot of our activities throughout the year. So I know Seas is getting it more expensive, but if you can support us, that would be fantastic. So flyers will be coming out shortly.
Hi, I'm on the flyers coming out shortly train too. So PWA is going to be having the New Year's Kamaboko, oh no, not New Year's, Oshoka, what are we doing? Osebo. Anyway, it's our Kamaboko and sashimi, tuna sashimi sale. And here's the Adobe flyer right here. So it'll kick off soon. Check your emails, check your Hikari when it comes out. We sell, thank you to our suppliers, Yamasa and Gary Yamaguchi. We sell the kind of things that you generally use at New Year's time for Japanese food feast at deep discount. So it will be kamaboko, which is a decorated fish cakes, and tuna sashimi slab for I think 15, and the unagi that we use, the eel that we use for our unagi bowls, and gobo ten, all your favorites, datemaki, that will all be starting. The orders will be due December 1st, and the delivery will be December 15th at Osebo. So check your inboxes.
And just one last thing. For the conference, I think there's an interfaith group that has asked for some new stuffed animals. I think they should be smaller. And I just wanted to warn Sensei.
They don't want the huge ones.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, if you get that to me anytime by Thursday, I will take them down with me. I'm leaving Friday.
Right, Sensei. And I just want to warn you, there are 3 stuffed animals on your chair in the office, so.
Don't worry, we got some next door too. No,
Okay.
I already started up. Last time I was there, I bought one.
Yeah. So anyway, if you haven't offered incense yet, please go ahead and do so. But thank you very much for attending this special service. Think of all the powerful and wonderful women in our lives and in our country and our world.
Next Sunday, there might be one.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. And of course, it's Dodger time. So watch the Dodger game. It's going to be very exciting. So thank you again.
No, it's no difference. And the charcoal's still warm, so if you have not been essentially, please do. Oh, I guess it is any of
And please remember, we're handing out, you get your choice of the special mochi made by probably the oldest confectioner in Little Tokyo. They make beautiful, beautiful mochi. And if you want to have some tea with the mochi, go ahead and go to the classroom and you can have tea and mochi. Thank you.